Once a year, I bring a computer program to the Hochberg Academy. It's a peace process simulation. It's quite brilliant. It was created about 10 years ago by Israelis and Palestinians, and we play it every year. And normally, they make the students in the Hochberg Academy make a fair amount of progress towards peace. Last year was the first time in 7 or 8 years that I've been doing this, that in an hour, they worked all the way through and were able to find peace. Peace in the Middle East. And they did it in an hour. What was really interesting when we did it again this Wednesday was some of the people who were there last year had an idea of how to bring about peace. But some of the other people were new to the simulation, and so the team was different, and the focus was different, and the events that happened were different. Because in this simulation, it's not just make a decision and then something happens. Sometimes something pops up. A suicide bomber may pop up and kill some Israelis, and then you need to work out what to do. Or Israeli police may find or have thwarted a terrorist bomber. Or you may try to extend the hand of peace, but your own government doesn't let you because they think that's too liberal. These things pop up, and it changes year after year. So even though last year was the first year where a group was able to totally create peace in the Middle East, this year they tried doing something similar, but it didn't work. And in fact, for the first time ever, we lost the game. And their actions led to the third intifada. And this was quite extraordinary and a really humbling and important lesson. The book of Psalms tells us to seek peace and to pursue it, which is great, but how? I think there are two quotations in Leviticus 19 in the Torah portion of Kedoshim, this week's Torah portion, Achrei Mot Kedoshim. Hocheach tochiach et amitecha, surely you shall rebuke your neighbor, and va'ahavta larecha kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself, or show love to your neighbor as yourself. If we are to work towards peace, we have to do both things. We have to be honest with the person with whom we're interacting and say, you're not helping. You're behaving in certain ways that are actually damaging to us. That's rebuke. And we're going to look at rebuke in Torah study tomorrow, because rebuke is an important part of Judaism. It's an important part of communal identity. And yet it can go too far. It can be damaging. So we invite you to come to Torah study to explore what rebuke is in Judaism. That's tomorrow morning. So we rebuke, and yet we don't want to be rebuked. None of us necessarily want to be told off, but we do want to be guided. V'ahavta larecha kamocha. Show love to your neighbor as to yourself. If I am uncomfortable with someone turning around and saying, you did this wrong, then I can't turn around to others and say that. But I can turn around and positively reinforce their positive behavior. And I can turn around and say, what you did there actually didn't help us. And so, in this peace process simulation, what was fascinating was sometimes when something terrible happens, the immediate instinctive response is to attack back. And that actually, as we discovered this week, just doesn't work. And sometimes there has to be a change of culture. And so for us, we actually learned something really powerful, I think. Something that some of us already knew, I think it's fair to say. That creating peace in the Middle East isn't done necessarily through strength, although sometimes strength needs to be shown. It's not done by destroying your neighbors, although it is sometimes done by making sure that your neighbors cannot attack you. At the same time, though, if you respond to violence with violence, it can create an eternal cycle of violence. And at some point, somebody has to break that. And so it's a delicate balance. And how interesting, how important for us that one year we succeeded and brought about peace in the Middle East in this simulation, and the next year, even using similar strategies, we actually ended up losing the game entirely and creating a very dangerous cycle of violence. And that shows us how precarious peace is. And that shows us that coming to peace and creating peace doesn't follow a formula. It's about human connection. It's about seeing the other. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your neighbor as yourself, which means seeing them, not treating them as I must do X, Y, and Z in order to bring them into peace, but I have to sit and listen to them and hear their needs and share with them my needs and then try to find peace based on that. I think this has been an incredibly important exercise. So important, in fact, that we're thinking of bringing this simulation to the adults in our community as well. I think it's a really interesting exercise to do. And so keep an eye out for that. Tonight we have our Kabbalat Shabbat service. Tomorrow morning, as I said, we have our Torah study. That is online only because we have a Bar Mitzvah ceremony and we encourage you to join us in person for that as well. I hope to see you soon. We also have an event, of course, on Sunday. Hopefully you've signed up for that. It's a Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut event. You cannot come in unless you've pre-registered because of security reasons. So if you're seeing this and you haven't yet registered, please call the office immediately and make sure that you do. I hope to see you over this weekend, and I wish you Shabbat Shalom.